Welcome to Anonymous here. Today I'll be showing Anonymous's game shelf 2020. First console game is PS2. The first one is Red Faction 2. The next one is Conflict Global Storm. Next one is Medal of Honor Fortnite. Next is The Sims. Next is Mission Impossible. Next is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Next is Ridge Racer. Next is Final Fantasy. Next is Headhunter. Next is The Getaway. Next is Grand Theft Auto. Next is Grand Theft Auto for Liberty City. Next is Tekken Tag Tournament. Next is The Matrix Next Pack. Next is True Crime Streets of Rage. Next is Kingdom Hearts 2. Next is Smackdown. Next is Godfather. Now on the DS games. This is Dead and Furious. This is Napoleon. This is Burnout. This is Glory Days 2. This is Sean White. This is Eragon. This is The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hours of Rest. Moving on to the 3DS games. This is Rayman 3D. Now on to the games with the cartridge. This is Mario Kart DS. This is Pal Street. This is Super Mario's DS. This is Ultra Street Fighter for the Nintendo Switch. Now on to Nintendo Switch games. This is ARMS. This is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah.
This is Victor Van Helsing. This is Super Mario Odyssey Epic. The next game is Super Bomberman R. The next game is Fate Umbrella Star. The next game is Lego City Undercover. The next game is Starlink Battle for Atlas. The next game is Gear Club Unlimited. The next game is Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. The next is Splatoon 2. Next is Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Next is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now moving on to the second row. Next is the Xbox 360 games. The first one is Titanfall. The next one is Medal of Honor. The next one is BioShock 2.
Shiny.
The next one is Fallout 3. The next one is Brothers in Arms. The next one is Binary Domain. The next one is Too Human. The next one is Duke Nukem Forever. The next one is Call of Juarez the Carter. Next is Aliens. Next is Turok. Next is Deus Ex, an epic game. Next is Bad Company Battlefield. Next is Fear 2. Next is Rage. Next is Brink, very cheap. Next is Skyrim, an epic game. Next is Kane and Lynch Deadman, which is Tuesday. Next is Gears of War 3, another multiplayer versus game. Next is Ninja Gaiden, Hayabusa's game. Next is Assassin's Creed Revelations. Next is Zone of the Enders HD Collection. Next is Dante's Inferno. Next is Dead Rising 2. Next is Red Dead Redemption, a graphical game. Next is Darkside, a hard game. Next is Final Fantasy. Next is Tom Clancy's Hawk, also on iPad. Next is Sega Superstar Tennis. Next is Metal Gear Rising. Next is Fight Night Round 3. Next is Resident Evil. Next is Max Payne 3. Next is Resident Evil 5. Next is Strange Little Hold. Next is Saints Row the Third. Next is Deadpool, who's a crazy guy. Next is Wet for £1. Next is Beowulf. Next is Soul Calibur 5, a versus game. Next is Mass Effect 2. Next is Grand Theft Auto Liberty City. Next is Grand Theft Auto 5, the latest one. Next is Dragon's Dogma, another graphical game, and it includes early access for Resident Evil 6. Moving on to the Wii games. Next is Victorious Boxes. Next is Wii Play with lots of different games. Next is Super Smash Bros. Brawl for the Wii. Next is Medal of Honor Vanguard. Next is Scarface, The World Is Yours. Next is Super Mario Galaxy 2. Next is the first Super Mario Galaxy 2 Epic Games. And another epic game, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Next is Red Steel. Next is Red Steel 2. Next is Facebreaker, another multiplayer versus game. Next is Wario Land, Warriors game. Next is Mario Kart Wii with different Nintendo characters. Next is Water Sports with different water games. Next is Marvel Ultimate Alliance, a multiplayer game. Next is Call of Duty. Next is Ninja Turtles Smash Up, a versus game. Next is Monster Hunter 3. Next is Knight's Game, Journey of Dream. Next is Disney Cars 2. Next is Prince Persia, The Forgotten Sands. Next is Tatsunoko vs Capcom with loads of different Capcom characters. Next is Ghost Squad from Sega. Next is Disney Infinity, loads of Disney characters. Next is Resident Evil, The Umbrella Chronicles. Next is the Avatar, The Legend of Aang. Next is Guilty Oracle. Next is Sonic Sega All-Stars Racing. Next is Off-Road Extreme. Next is GT Pro Series. Next is Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition. Next is Iron Man 2 with War Machine. Next is Conduct. It's a special edition game. Next is the GameCube games. Next is Spy Hunter. Next is Burnout. Next is Driven. Next is Star Fox Adventures. Next is Mario Kart Double Dash with different Nintendo characters. Now moving on to the PS4 games. Next is Watch Dogs 2. Next is the Phantom's Metal Gear Solid, The Phantom Pain. Next is Resident Evil Biohazard, including Chris's story. Next is Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Next is Grand Theft Auto 5, which has heavy graphics in it. Next is Watch Dogs 1. Next is Resident Evil 2 Remake. Next is Doom. And finally, Dragon Quest Heroes 2 Explorers Edition. And here are the amiibos. First is Shulk. Next is Zero Suit Samus. Next is Ryu. Next is Zelda. Next is Link. And the Smash tin up there. And the Star Fox arming with the Star Mason and Fox.